I swear that was like the longest last minute of 7 o'clock I've seen in a long time. I was sitting here like, I feel like it's been 7:59 for 7 minutes already. Good evening, everybody. We have 6 viewers so far. We'll let a couple other people trickle in, see if we can get a better turnout from Friday night. I know 8 p.m. is a little odd to do on a Friday evening. Most people are trying to have fun on Friday and Saturday night. Might have to adjust that in the future. Welcome to the chat from Florida. Florida as well. Stationed out in Florida currently. We'll get some other folks in here and then we'll get started. See, Margo has become a hurricane. I was calling it. I called it even before NHC had it out there. Not trying to gloat or anything, but I had mentioned that Margo has a pretty good shot at becoming a hurricane, and there it is. As of the 9 p.m. GM time. I'm not too sure what that is. I forget what that GM stands for. Virginia, welcome in, Lisa. Hurricane to Florida, deep South Florida. Daniel, welcome. I don't know if we're not going to talk hurricane to Florida just yet. We have a couple interesting things to talk about, though. And then whoever joins in here, I really want to clear the air of my video yesterday, because I noticed that we had a sudden uptick in people coming in and saying, you're hyping, you're fear-mongering, chaos where? And it's like, well, it's a matter of how you interpret chaos, because it's quite chaotic, and I could kind of use chaos to describe a number of different things. Carmen, welcome. Good to see you. What are your thoughts on impacts in Philly? Philadelphia, they might see something. It's really going to depend on how much of a jog to the west that thing decides to take. We're going to get into that. We'll talk a little bit about the dynamics of why it's suddenly looking like we could see a jog to the west last minute. And then we really got to dig deep into these two bad boys out here. By the way, for those of you joining in, we have the live subscriber count up. Shucks, someone unsubscribed too. What a bummer. We got the live, there we go. We got the live subscriber count up on the right-hand side because we're right on the threshold of 3,000 subscribers. A week ago, we were celebrating 2,000 subscribers, so it's fun to see. We'll do a little bit of a countdown together. We've done this on Instagram Live before, and now I figure why not do it with a number of my YouTube viewers. All right, it's 8:03. We'll give it until about maybe 8:10. We'll say hello and kind of just shoot the breeze for a little bit until then. Got to make sure I hydrate. My eyes are burning. I have Weather Center mamas here falling asleep to the sound of my voice. See if I can do this without messing up the camera. There she goes. Oh, my water bottle's in the way. There she is. She's passed out. I guess it's soothing when her dad talks about the weather. Let me adjust the camera again. Scully YT, I can understand why you'd want it to hit Florida. There's definitely going to be a lot of digesting and information that needs to be really closely looked at for our invest areas in the Atlantic. There's no ruling out the possibility that Florida could get hit. But right now, it's not looking too definitive. And I really want us to start with Ensembles here in a moment. We'll give it another 5 minutes, see if other people join, and then we'll start right off with talking Ensembles, because Ensembles are our best friend right now. Well, sort of. You'll see just how much of a conglomerative, chaotic mess, dare I use the word again. Rhode Island. I wouldn't say Rhode Island should be concerned, but you guys should definitely be monitoring. You can see where Lee currently is, and I'll switch over to the forecast track, and as you can see, you're going to be on the weaker side of the storm, but the problem is just looking at what the latest, I guess you could say, internal structuring of this storm looks like, it's actually very west side loaded as opposed to east side loaded. And typically with these storms, you'll see the right front quadrant, or you'll hear the right front side of it being the dirty side. And in this case, it's actually a little stronger, or the wind field is a little more widespread on the west side of it. So we'll have to wait and see what happens if it jogs over to the west a little bit more. Actually, I don't know why I have this one pulled up, David. Come on, dude. Pull up the big one. There we go. If it jogs a little further to the west, you guys might have something to look out for. That's for sure. And once again, we'll cover the ensembles here in a little bit. Bucks fan, I'm not a huge Bucks fan. I'm not a big football guy, to tell you the truth. I used to love playing football, but I don't really watch it too much. Will I go to their games and support? 110%. Any chance of those two anomalies following the same general path as Idelia Lee, and considering the steering forces? Right now, I would definitely say Lee more than anything. And once again, to rehash yesterday's video that somehow blew up, over 70,000 views on that thing. A lot of people probably thought it was clickbait. Dang, I don't know what's going on with my subscriber account, but somebody will subscribe and another person will unsubscribe, and so on and so forth. What a bummer. Better not be you guys. I'm just kidding. But I would definitely say Lee's track. We'll get into that here in a second, though. We could definitely see it mimic a little bit more of Lee's track, and the reason being is both of these systems, to give you a synopsis of what yesterday's video was all about, the reason I said is going to cause chaos, and I didn't mean necessarily for anybody inland. I mean, yes, there's been some scenarios playing out to where we could see a major landfall along the mid-Atlantic states, but it's so far away that I'm not talking landfall. When I say chaos, it's crazy, the ensemble spread of this system. None of our models know where it wants to go. I've been seeing a lot of videos online showing the deterministic models, which is what I talked about in today's video, showing the operational runs of some of our different models going this way and that way, and people are using terminology like, there's a fair bit of confidence, and we're pretty confident that it's going to go, and it's like, no, guys, come on. I think it will be a new league, and new Invis could be Nigel or Ophelia will go towards the East Coast or the Caribbean and Gulf. New England impact for Lee, it's looking very favorable. As a matter of fact, we should have new 12Z ensembles, and on my super ensemble chart here, I'll open up that tab, get it ready. Nigel, we got to watch out for, and the only reason I keep saying we got to watch out for Nigel is because nobody is handling it very well. Let's go over to, it is 8:08. We'll get started. Let's go over to yeah. Look at that. It's getting worse and worse every time, I swear, this thing updates. Because if you go back to 12Z yesterday, I mean, there really wasn't much of an improvement, but it looks like the first half of the track is starting to get a little cleaner for what you guys can see on the live stream. But then once you get, I want to say somewhere right about at the same longitude as Bermuda almost, that's when it's even got a couple members going towards the New York area, and then all the way as far east as St. John's, Nova Scotia. So that's pretty wild. Or no, excuse me, that's not Nova Scotia, my bad. Nova Scotia is buried under the ensembles. So that's wild. That's a huge spread. And see, that's where, for those of you watching, I want to make this very clear, okay? And I know that some folks who don't have as much intuition and as much, know-how or understanding of meteorology and all the different dynamics and computer model stats that we look at on a day-to-day, when we use terminology like fair bit of confidence or very good confidence or low confidence, things of that nature, it comes in all shapes and sizes. There it is. Look at that. All right, we did it. We can go ahead and I'll cheers to that, guys. We're at 3,000 subscribers. Outstanding. Look at that. 3K. The big 3,000 subscribers. Thank you to all who are in the chat right now who may have contributed to that number. That's pretty exciting. I'm very grateful for you all. It goes without saying. I'm very excited to have you all here, and I'm trying to interact with you guys the best that I can. But anyways, forgive me. Just wanted to embrace my inner Ric Flair and talk about that. But yeah, this is all an area of very low confidence. Like, if we're talking in terms of like micro scale impacts. Like I've been seeing a lot of folks asking, is this city, is this state, yada yada, going to get impact? The larger scale you go, the better the confidence is. If we were to say Eastern Canada and the Northeastern United States could get hit, fair bit of confidence. Yeah, I mean, you can see that we could rule out most of the mid-Atlantic states. The Southeast is away from it. So good confidence that somewhere in the Northeastern United States, Eastern Canadian provinces are going to get impacted. But then the moment you come in here and you try to say, like, this area is going to get impact or this area is going to get impact, we could even see this. Like, no, we're getting too micro scale now. We still don't have enough confidence for that. Thank you, everybody, for blasting out the congrats. I know it's super exciting. Well, I had another person unsubscribe. I guess they were unhappy with the live stream. But to sum up what today's video was all about, I more so just wanted to talk about the difference between ensembles and our operational models, because there's a huge difference. And during my time in Air Force weather, that was one thing I saw a bunch of different analysts and forecasters messing up. Some folks would say, probability and the likelihood, and it's like, no. When you look at ensembles, it's a matter of agreement. This right here, all these different lines and the different spreads and the different members can all be considered like individual team members of, we'll say, like a working group. And they're all brainstorming different ideas in terms of where Lee could go. And when we say that there's good agreement, it means that despite the scenario changing, like see down in this area here, despite all the different variables that the different ensemble members are taking into consideration, we're in agreement. Like the ensembles are in agreement that this is what the likely track is going to look like. And then once you get to about this point in time, that's when they start to disagree a little bit. Some of them want to go wide left, some of them want to go wide right. And then the further north you go, there's even more inconsistency and even more disagreement between the models, or the ensembles, I should say. I think anywhere from Atlantic City, New Jersey, or Connecticut to Canada is where expected landfall is going to be, even if it was long. Yeah, I can agree with that. I've been saying for the last couple of days now, as a matter of fact, I think since like middle of last week, I've been saying that from New York and up this way needs to be watching this storm. And it's crazy to see that some of the ensembles, actually I should say this whole ensemble plot lines up with that very well. From New York up, should be monitoring. And I'm sure this will continue to adjust before we get closer and closer to game time. Thank you very much, VP Weather. I appreciate y'all. Definitely a good time. It's been fun making these videos. Very tiring, I'll tell you the truth. I'm still learning the ropes on editing and refining and all that. And I'll tell you right now, I'm feeling it. So if you guys see me rubbing my eyes, it's because I'm tired. I'm burnt out. It takes a lot of brain power. Harkens back to when I was working the long shifts, forecasting the weather and having to brief folks and talk all things models and ensembles. So yeah, we know what's going on with Lee. We're well ahead of it now. Like we haven't understood. It's there. He's been there. It's been out there for a while, and we're going to spend a number of days with him still. It's not going to be out of the picture for a while. Let's start going over to ensembles. We have 12Z ensembles for both Euro and GFS, and we'll start with the Euro. I recently looked at Euro just before this live stream, and let me tell you right now, for our disturbances in the Eastern Atlantic, they have not cleared up at all. Like they still look just as chaotic. Again, for those of you in the chat right now, the only reason I said this storm will cause chaos is because it's throwing all predictions. It's throwing the weather pattern out there. It's chaos. It literally is. Like we have so many moving pieces in terms of what this storm could possibly do. Before we get too deep into the ensembles, I'll use this blank chart to kind of explain to you my reasoning for saying what some people would construe as clickbait. So typically for hurricane season, as you all I'm sure know, when it comes to forecasting Atlantic systems, there's usually only 2 or 3 variables we look at. We'll look at where the storm is, what our high pressure is doing out here, and then if we have any troughs or cold fronts coming off the coast. Typically, that's the name of the game. If you have a high out here, if you have it more Azores, fish storm. If you have it more Bermuda, it's going to probably be more of a threat to the southeast, mid-Atlantic, or even the Gulf of Mexico. But in this case, I'll go ahead and use a different pen. I'll use red as a symbol of chaos. I'm just kidding. I'll use red as a symbol of just, we have high pressure right in through here. We have a high pressure up in through here. We have now Hurricane Margo here. We all know that we have Hurricane Lee right here. We have one frontal system draped in through here. We have a trough back behind it with another frontal system through there. We're expecting this high to build back this way. We're expecting this high to retreat to the north and then build back down to the south. And then we have our two disturbances down here acting a fool. So it's literal chaos out there right now. There's no other better way to describe it. I'm not going to say that this is an easy pattern to navigate. Maybe for the subject matter experts over at National Hurricane Center, they've seen big pictures like this before, but I can personally say, in my experience, this makes things very difficult. And the reason it's difficult is because you're dealing with, I'll type it in the chat too so you guys can see it. We're dealing with not only the semi-permanent pressure systems that we typically see year-round, but we're also dealing with synoptic scale pressure systems and dynamic. Why am I suddenly, I'm forgetting how to spell dynamic. Sheesh, I'm definitely tired. And what a semi-permanent pressure system is something that's just going to kind of stay there year-round. They're like regimes. For example, the Bermuda Azores High. It's always there, albeit sometimes it weakens and sometimes it moves back and forth. Sometimes I'll have a big H out over this area. Other times we'll have a big H out over this area, and it kind of allows our systems out here to evacuate. Sometimes we'll have it way up off to the north, and we can't even see it on the chart because of the time of the year. And, you know, that's one piece of the puzzle. And then we have all these intricate pieces of moving parts, like we have Lee, and then we have Margo that's looking to do something like this. So that's why, as you have our entity form up through there, we have some model agreement that it could go this way. It could go this way. It could go this way. Some of it want to track it this way. Some of them want to track it this way. So it's nutso. It's crazy. They're not doing very good with this one at all. And that's the main reason why I'm just trying to bring awareness to it. There's been a few other YouTube channels that have been discussing it, but no one is really going in depth with how much of a scrambled pattern we have for moving this storm along. We saw the influence with Idalia in terms of what Franklin did to her and how it shimmied the track further to the west. And now we have two storms out there, coupled with another disturbance that's interacting with it right now. So it's off the chain. Forgive me for not paying too close attention to the chat. Will Mobile, Alabama get hit this year? It's not looking too likely. Not right now. We're dodging bullets in Mobile. Central Florida is also dodging bullets. But we'll see. There's also something else on here that I want to talk to you guys about just a little bit as well. Way far out. Might not even be there by tomorrow or the next day, but again, my antenna are up and firing on all four cylinders. This could be a New England hurricane in 1938. I think the landfall will be a Cat 2 105 with a storm's 10 foot and rainfall. Just a hypo. I mean, that's accurate. The 105 mile an hour winds, it's still anticipated to have a central pressure anywhere between 960 and 970, and then make it a Cat 2. The storm surge could be pretty gnarly as well since the wind field is so big. Excuse me. We're just lucky that it's not later into transition season to where this thing could possibly pick up a cold sector and really become reminiscent of Superstorm Sandy, where it's got a cold sector, a warm sector, a tropical sector, and a cold core. But anyways, let's go ahead and look at ensembles. So 42 hours out. Actually, we'll go 48 hours out, 2 days from now. Not expecting a whole lot in the way of development in the Eastern Atlantic, but we can start to see some of our ensemble members picking up on at least what could be a closed disturbance. Disorganized area of thunderstorm activity, which is kind of what's lining up with it right now. We have very good model agreement on both Lee and Margo. We know what they're doing. Some of the models indicate that it'll actually try to deep into a Cat 2, it looks like, or at least some of the ensembles, I should say. I don't think we'll see a Cat 2 out of Margo. She's really off to the north. But then again, I mean, we'll take a look at satellite and see what she looks like, because if she's still further organizing with all that inflow that she's getting along her south and eastern flank, it's definitely a possibility. But as we go 4 days out, look at what happens to Margo's ensembles. Look at how they're spreading out. It's almost like, you guys ever play Roller Coaster Tycoon or Thrillville back in the day for a computer? It looks like someone's just building a roller coaster track with the ensembles for Margo. I mean, the Gulf or Florida could see a couple landfalls because storms in October form in the Caribbean, go in the Gulf. They usually do, and that's kind of what we want to talk about. And it'd be crazy too. And I mean, I'm going to step back from the Weather Center persona and just go David for a second because I'm a big horror fan. We have Friday the 13th and Halloween in October this year. I mean, Halloween's obviously always there, but we get a 2-for-1 deal. Friday the 13th and then Halloween. And if you guys remember, Charlie formed in August and hit on Friday the 13th. So if we get something big come out there towards the back end of this month, right around Friday the 13th, it could be very interesting to see what it does. But all right, this is 4 days into the future. As you get into the 5-day portion, right now, it seems like we have decent agreement that it's going to move west-northwest and eventually off to the northwest. But watch what happens when you get out past like the 6 and the 7-day mark. Look at how much more of a spread we have and then forget it. Look at Margo's ensembles. You have some going this way, you have some going this way, and then you have one member that wanted to go this way and deepen into a major hurricane. So, shoot. And then here we go with the ensembles for Invest 97, and I've even heard rumor that there's a 98L out there. Last I checked, I didn't see 98 on National Hurricane Center, so I don't know where that came from. Let's see. Oh, there it is. Okay, 98L. Fair enough. So they finally investigated, or they made it an invest area, and they have it going off to the west-northwest as well, kind of like what the ensembles are picking up on. All right, so that's okay. I'll give that up. But look at the spread in those ensembles. Like, that's genuine insanity. That's crazy. Like, look at that. You can tell that the ensembles are just off the charts with this thing. And that's the chaos I was talking about yesterday for folks who watched my video. There's no confidence in where this thing's going to go. I mean, even right here, you could argue that it could be as far south as the 15-degree, latitude line. It could be all the way up to the 20-degree line at that point. That's already a distance of about 500 some odd miles discrepancy. When you get further out in time, look at this. Look how crazy that is. You have some that want to take it real dangerously close to the Caribbean, and then you have others that want it to be already past where Margo is in time. Look at that margin of error. Daryl, I see you. Hurricane Michael Myers. I got to make sure to wear one of my Michael Myers masks for Halloween when we do a live stream on Halloween, or if there's a weather report that needs to come out for Halloween. I'm going to close my active subscriber count because it's starting to get disappointing that I see random unsubscribes. It's like, shucks, I thought I did a good job on this video. But, yeah, so look at, and this is just Euro. If we go over to GFS, I bet you 10-1 GFS is just as discombobulated of a mess as could be. Yeah, look at the GFS ensembles for 12Z. That's wild. I'll go ahead and draw the margin of error on this one. You can see that we have some ensembles doing this. Whoops, I didn't want the black pen. I want the yellow one. We have some ensembles doing this. And then we have some that go all the way into the Caribbean. I see that one little random Cat 2 hurricane working its way into the Yucatan. Like, look at that spread. There's no way anybody on this earth could say, I know exactly where this storm is going to go, and you're hyping if you say otherwise. Like, no, that's... what? There's absolutely no way. And then you also look at our operational models, and they're doing the same thing. You have some that go boom, 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 and yeah. The only one that's been fairly consistent has been the GFS. The GFS has been very consistent in its depiction of where it wants to go. Shucks, I didn't want to do that. I'll open it in a new tab. We'll go to Tropical Tidbits. We'll go to the 12Z GFS. And honestly, I don't even need to switch the AOY. Just pay close attention to this part of the screen right here, and you'll see what almost looks like Lee 2.0 come into frame. So this is where we sat earlier today around 12Z. And as you go through time, there goes Lee transitioning to the north and then getting punched right back into Maine as a Cat 2 hurricane. And then you go forward in time from here. This is September 17th at this point. September 17th. Watch the timestamp. As you go forward in time slowly, here comes Lee 2.0. You'd think I never even moved the slider. Where the heck did that come from? And it's about the same intensity, too. 945 millibars. And that's been trending, too. I know GFS usually isn't a very confident model to use, but at the same time, like, we're getting into the realm of possibility with the GFS, as opposed to La La Land. You go forward in time, and that looks a little concerning for the Northeast. That's a direct hit to Manhattan right there. Major hurricane going into Manhattan. And again, I'm not saying this is the end-all, be-all. I understand how to read models, and I know that this is still 306 hours away. This is September 24th. There could be a potential landfall. And if you look at the calendar, obviously we all know what day it is. It's September 11th. That's a big day in the history books. So it goes without saying we all know what day and time we're in. This is well out into the future. But the only reason I say this is something we got to watch, we got to start looking at, is even though some people like to discredit the GFS, it's only typically after we go out about 200 some odd, almost 300 hours out, where if something forms up, there's a lot of inaccuracy with it. But if I go to, look at that, if I go 120 hours into the future, 5 days from now, we already have a depression out there, if not even a tropical storm. And then you go forward from there, and you see it just further organizes real quick. What are you doing, mamas? Sorry, I didn't mean to bother you. And then we go to, let's go see what the 12, yeah, see, look at the discrepancies with the models. Here's what the Euro wants it to do, and the Euro even tries to bump it towards, poor Bermuda. Bermuda just keeps getting bushwhacked by these storms. Stop the hype train, you fear-monger. I was waiting for it. Tried to CYA all the way through here, but can't tell if you're being sarcastic or not. But there it is. We're hyping now. Shoot, at that rate, Cat 5, I'm calling it. Cat 5 into Manhattan. New York City. I Am Legend. Or Independence Day. I'm just kidding. I'm just playing. Now, the only thing we have to start watching for is exactly what happens out there in terms of if and when Nigel gets his act together and how all these moving pieces disrupt the overall pattern. Because with the amount of high pressures and frontal systems we have coming off of the East Coast, we're definitely starting to get into transition season. The swap between summertime to fall. And that's when the whole synoptic setup and even the macro scale setup across the northern hemisphere is going to be different. Nigel will stay away from land. Canadian model seems most likely. There's no way to call that. I'm sorry. There's no way. We're talking 300 some odd hours out. This is still 240 hours out. This is September 21st. It's almost 2 weeks from now. There's no way. Like, I can understand hypothetical theories in terms of it following the track of Lee because it's going to basically clear the path, but it's way too early to say that. Not with this much disagreement. And for those of you who still think I don't know how I'm fear-mongering. I'm just looking at charts and explaining what the charts show. I could say there's nothing out there. I could go ahead and say I see a 943 millibar low, but I'm going to go ahead and do this. No, there's nothing out there, guys. I'm just playing. I'm making it up with my imagination. I'm just, calling it like it is. I'm in Christopher, Florida, and Adalia. Complete changes there for sure. People don't realize that these things have the power. Thank God you are here to help. Florida Man 2.0, I appreciate that. Kothless, stop the hype train, you fear. Now I feel like we're just copying and pasting in there. There's a difference between fear-mongering and encouraging awareness. Yeah, there's a huge difference. Eric Burris said, whatever this gets named Nigel, it better be polite. I appreciate that, though, Florida Man 2.0. After a certain point, you kind of have to go into the fear-monger land. And I say that with the utmost professionalism. Like, when we're talking severe weather, at a point in time, you have to make the decision of, are you going to put the warning out? Are you going to have to issue the severe thunderstorm warning? Are you going to have to issue the tornado warning? And it's a high-stress environment. I've been there before, where I've been seeing tornadic signatures on radar, and it's like, do I do I hit the don't waste your breath? No, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's just, yeah, I agree. That's all I'm going to say. It gets to the point where when you're faced with significant weather situations, if you can read the future of a storm that hasn't formed, then you should play the stock market. You are a soothsayer. What the? Definitely not doing that either. I'm just going off of what I see here. And I mean, in the weather realm, you kind of have to look into the future to forecast. It's another big discrepancy. Is we're getting into the realm where people don't want to hear the forecast anymore. And if we only stick to the forecast, then, I mean, if we only stick to the nowcast, then there's no time to prep and there's no way to get, awareness. My house has seaweed marks in the second-story windows, which is about the... Dang! Man, see, that bothers me, because a lot of people were trying to downplay Idalia and try to say that she was just a high-grade tropical storm or something like that. And that's ridiculous. That's... I don't know. I don't get it. Cat 5. I wish I had 5 cats. But I mean, if you don't take my word for it, if you think I'm just fear-mongering, I'm hyping, we can look at the chart. The models will tell you. There's going to be something out there. And earlier in the stream, for those of you who I guess are now newly joining, I even said that to try to pinpoint what this storm's going to do is a fallacy. That in of itself is blasphemy. You shouldn't do that. What I'm here to do is to tell you that we have very good agreement that we're going to see something develop. We have very good agreement that there is no agreement on what this storm is going to do. We have no agreement as to what it's going to do in terms of if it wants to follow Margo, if it wants to follow Lee, if it's going to take its own kind of track. The people I'm more so concerned right now in terms of this new system forming would be the same area under the gun with Hurricane Lee right now. Because if it stays north of the Caribbean and we have all these troughs and fronts coming off the coast, it's just going to keep going north. 3, maybe a low end 4. Not sure if the surge was that bad. Yeah, I've heard conflicting reports about the storm surge out there, but just seeing the footage of the wind damage and even the ongoing destruction that some people captured during their live chases, you could tell that was way more than a tropical storm, but some people still want to disregard it. But, yeah. By the way, I completely forgot what I was going to say. Anyways, we'll go back to the Ensemble viewer. And as I mentioned in today's video, September does not seem like it wants to calm down at all. Because we go out in time. This is the European model again. You can see this utter chaos that unfolds with whoever this is. We'll say Nigel just for the sake of trying to put a label on it. Or Invest 98L before it develops. But then take a look at the ensembles right in through. I'll even zoom in a little bit. Can I zoom in here? Let's see. Maximize. I can't zoom in on this one, can I? My phone keeps going off, and I'm getting a little concerned. 1 second. Let's see. Nah, nothing's happening. Sorry, folks, just answering the phone. Let me join. I'm a real Metro... What? Metro... I'm going to start saying that now. Hashtag Metro August. I have a new degree in town, guys. I went ahead and dropped out of my atmospheric science program with MSU, and I enrolled in Weather Center's Metro August program. So I'm going to get that degree here in about 10 minutes. No, I'm just kidding. I should really stop. I know this is a live stream. We're kind of just doing this casually, but I should definitely, I should stop. FM 2.0, are you literally next to Mark? Oh, he's talking to Florida man. But, look down in this general area of this chart here as we go forward in time. And again, this is way out. So you just never know at this point. But it looks like there's already a pretty good amount of agreement that something else is going to come off of Africa and start pushing to the west. And this one looks to take even more of a southern latitude track. Like most of the members are down in this area for this guy. And this is late September. If you guys watch Weatherman Plus's videos, he's been talking a lot about some anomalous activity happening at the back end of September into October. So I don't see why that wouldn't take shape or we wouldn't have something out there. Let's take a look and see what CPC is saying right now, if they've updated their chart or if they still have the same one out there for us. No, this is still the same one. But I bring up these details, especially the ensembles, because look at what we have in store for us according to Climate Prediction Center between the 20th and the 26th. And if I go back to our ensembles right here, you can see that we have development about, we'll say, good agreement that we'll have development sometime around the 16th, but then as you go forward in time, right in time for that window of opportunity, the 20th of September, we get another system pushing off. And this one takes a bit more of a westward track as opposed to a northward track. So we'll have to see how that pans out. I'm going to start watching for the consistencies. Because if there's one lesson I've learned quickly during this season is the ensembles don't pick up on something right away. They'll start hinting towards it. It's kind of like the ensemble members. Remember that whole group setting I told you about with our ensembles? It's like a couple of the members are like, hey, they'll tap you on the shoulder and say, check this out. Come on over here and take a look at this. And then slowly but surely, they'll all start to get on board with the idea that something's going to form. So I'm very curious to see, maybe not tomorrow per se, because this is... Actually, no, I lied. That's already 200 hours out that we're seeing some agreement. I would have said we'll have to watch a few days from now if it were 300 hours out. But as early as 200 hours, we have hints of a tropical storm coming off of Africa. But either way, that's so far out, we'll have to check something. We'll have to start keeping tabs on it. There's been a very westward shift in a lot of these ensembles, though. Like, you take a look at the consensus of where it was yesterday, and I'll draw it with my pen here. This is where most of the Euro ensembles wanted to keep it yesterday, or I should say this morning at 0Z, and then look at 12Z. You see how they're trying to shift further to the west, especially up in that northern segment there. It looks like a 6-month-old got a hold of crayons. How many miles across is that spread for Nigel? Oh, shoot. Yeah, it's that's the crazy part. That's why I made my video as, I guess you can say, hype as I could have, because you may as well have the whole North Atlantic as the spread for it, because you have ensemble members going all the way out this way and all the way out this way. So there's no saying. And then I really want us to pay attention to this. I really do. I know that's very, very preemptive, but other YouTubers and other meteorologists have been mentioning that towards the end of this month, we're going to get back into an oscillating pattern that could really instigate development, like we saw with Adalia Franklin and all the different systems out there that just wouldn't stop dying. I am a real metrologist. Florida is safe. Stop hyping foolishness. I can't help but laugh now. My buddy Gabriel's in the chat right now, and him and I have been talking about how everything's hype. And the best part is, I'm going to let you guys in on a little secret. I used to be a hip-hop dancer when I was in high school many moons ago. And the dance crew I was a part of was called Hype Boys. So I guess it's just, in my natural tendency to want to hype some things up. It's in my blood at this point. I've always been a hype boy. But, yeah. I'm not even really going to go into deterministic models or the op models because, there's really not a whole lot to talk about elsewhere outside of what this system's possibly going to do and what Margo's going to do, because Margo has some really weird spinning going on. You can kind of see that she gets sucked underneath an upper ridge and starts moving in that anticyclonic fashion before ejecting out over the ocean. Eric Burris said, with a name like Nigel, it better be polite. Well, if he's anything like that, sounds like an 8-year-old the metrologist. I don't even know what that is, a metrologist. Sounds like someone who works for Metro PC, what is it? Metro PCS? Let's see if we have 18Z GFS ensembles in yet. Nope. We'll go to Tropical Tidbits and see if 18Z GFS says anything different for the ensembles. They're all the way in. Wow, yeah, just look at all that spread. Uh-oh. You guys see what I see? GFS is calling it too. Now I'll admit, I'm hyping a little bit. I'm hyping a little bit. For those of you watching, didn't I just say we have to pay attention to what the Euro is spitting out in terms of agreement? So this is potential Nigel right here. Look at that ensemble spread for Nigel. And those are all pretty much major hurricane pressures right there. But watch this. Let's go forward in time. Pay attention to the main development region and look at that. This is way out in time. I understand that. This is very, very out in time. This is as far out into the future that the GFS could go. So naturally, there comes a little bit of inaccuracy with this. But we have agreement. Remember, if you guys were in my live stream the other day, we now have that little bit of a ground to stand on. There's both model platforms are picking something up, and that's, like I said, a lot further west than what we've been seeing. So now we have something to pay attention to. For those of you watching, we have some homework to do now. Do you think Nigel could be stronger than Lee? I don't think so. He has a couple things working against him. The fact that he's going to take a very similar track, that area of the atmosphere and the surface of the ocean is going to be tapped for energy. So I don't know if it's going to be as strong or stronger. I don't know if we'll see, Cat 5 strength out of it. Major hurricane? Absolutely. If it can get its act together and move up like some of the models are indicating, then yeah. But that raises a lot of alarms. And again, I apologize if it now seems like I'm going into hype land, but we were just now in this stream. I think you need to get your butt up to Maine and experience Lee for real. Then you won't be a hype train. I want to. I mean, I've definitely gone through hurricanes before. I know what they're all about. I was just outside during 70-mile-an-hour winds in a convective downrush. And whatchamacallit, I was just kicking it, taking a video. But 384 hours out is 16 days. I'm sure that is bound to change, but if it does come to pass, then we'll certainly worry about it. Yeah, like I said, I brought the disclaimer out there that we have a lot of time to see what happens here, and when we were looking at the Euro ensembles, we got to make sure we watch for consistency and if it does start to trend going forward. But one area of consistency is already popping off, and that's the Euro and the GFS calling for something. This is essentially an extension of what the Euro is already calling for. And I'll go ahead and, for those of you who still think I'm purely going off of hype right now, I'll show you the little bit of consistency that we have going on. I'll go split screen for a second. Probably won't work, unfortunately. It's probably going to look a discombobulated mess. I can already tell by the way weathermodels.com is looking. But we'll go to cyclone locations, and we'll go to EP cyclones, the Euro ensembles. We'll go, yeah, see, I can't even see the, there we go, tropical Atlantic. That's 6Z. We'll go to 12Z, and we'll go all the way out. We'll try to go all the way out. I'll leave it right here just for the sake of not taking up too much space. But here we go right here. Let's go back in time on our GFS now and see if that lines up with the timing. Because if it lines up with the timing, then we have our first layer of consistency between models. So that's the 30-degree longitude line right about there. This is September 22nd, September 23rd. Yeah. So both the models are looking at something. That kind of changes things. Big time, too. Gosh, there's so many moving pieces out there. It's incredible. The atmosphere is literally like a giant freaking 100, 200, 500 piece jigsaw puzzle right now. Florida had a storm Gabrielle 3 days after 9/11. Wow. Hola, Danny. Thank you for joining in. We just discovered a new piece of the puzzle. Yeah. I'm at a loss right now. That's interesting. We're definitely have a lot of work cut out for us over the next few days. And again, I agree with those of you who had already mentioned to me that we're definitely way out in the span of the GFS's imagination. But that's why I have this side-by-side view up for you guys right now, is we have both models hinting towards something at about the 250-hour mark. I know it seems a long ways away into the future, but it's not that far into the future. And so far, everything that the models have called, I mean, even back to Idalia and Franklin back in the day, they didn't verify 110%, but they've been pretty good at, 7 to 10 day out forecasting. The problem is we have so many different dynamic pieces in the atmosphere right now that there's no saying where they're going to go. But I definitely can see why the GFS would want to push it further west. I think that's the one. I think if this does start to trend, especially after we get all of our systems in the Atlantic to get the heck out of the area, we're going to see nothing, as the GFS is indicating right there. I'm pointing at the screen. You guys can't see. But we're going to see that huge area of high pressure form up. And that's where it could get dangerous. Hey, Mr. Nazar, have you owned an ambient weather station? Not yet. I've used different micro weather sensors, and I did a lot of work with the TMQ-53 during my time in Air Force weather. So, I mean, I've done, some observation work, but I don't have an actual weather station here at home, unfortunately. You need a mod to time this guy. I know. Gabriel, if you're in there, somebody else is suggesting it now. You've already volunteered to be one of my moderators, so he's providing proper information. You watch the stream before. So thank you. I mean, I appreciate the standing up for me, Static. I'd thank you for that. I'm just going off of what I'm seeing. And I definitely think we should start, and it's kind of the same. I noticed yesterday that a lot of folks called me out a little bit on the fact that I mentioned no one was talking about the storm. Nigel, 98L on the horizon. And the only reason I said that is because everyone has been so tunnel vision on Hurricane Lee. And it makes sense. That's the imminent danger to folks in its path. But at the same time, if we fixate on one feature, that's when other things want to try to sneak in under the radar. And as Nigel gets to brewing now, I'm almost positive that whatever this is could fall under the radar as well. Because especially if Nigel moves further to the west, it's going to be the more imminent threat, so naturally we want to get ahead of it and talk about it. But I love to look far out into the future, because that's when you could really get, really well informed on how things could take shape. Let's see. So Bermuda High could end up being a lot stronger than it's been to bring Nigel in the Caribbean. Griffin, no, not for Nigel. For whatever the heck this thing is, potentially Ophelia. For those of you joining the chat, we've once again shifted gears. We went from Lee to Margo to Nigel, and now we're talking possible Ophelia. Dark Earth, the new thumbnail for Tropics Talk is nice. I still wish you kept the one with Florida and the arrow. I wanted to, but there were already a few people who took that as the fear-mongering and that I was suggesting the hurricane was going to Florida. In reality, I just put a big old hurricane on there because, Tropics Talk, and then pointed at Florida because typically they all move west. It's a big old arrow, and I'm stationed in Florida, so point at Florida like, hey guys, Weather Center Nazara here in the state of Florida doing Tropics Talk, But the new one is more ambiguous. It just has like a hurricane and me, and so that way no one can say hype because it's just a picture of a storm. This is false, phony information. Good Lord, man. Like, come on. What's happening right now? Are we in an Xbox live chat playing Call of Duty with everybody, or are we talking the weather right now? Next thing you know, he's going to start talking about how never mind, I'm not going to go there. But, it's 8:49. We'll call it out in like 10 minutes. We'll call it good. But, this thing went from interesting to even more interesting. We'll definitely have to keep an eye on that. Because regardless of how far out in time, usually I'll discount the GFS if it's by itself. If the GFS is on its own, making up certain things that far into the future, I'll usually, all right, I'm not gonna look at it too much. I'm not gonna obsess over it. But we noticed that on the European model first. And we even made mention of, as you go forward in time on the Euro model, I'll slide this over a little bit. As you go forward in time, they want to take a more westward path. Let me move it all the way over. I can't get to the end of the slider. There you go. You can see that the general consensus is a few of them want to come up this way, but I'll use a even larger pen and highlight to you guys the general trend with that new thing is off in this direction. And the crazy reality is if Nigel, we already have Lee right here. If Nigel goes up in between these two systems, let's say hypothetically Nigel is another fish storm. It doesn't do anything. It just moves up into the Atlantic, and then we have Margo kicking and spinning out here. What's going to happen is with so much upward vertical motion in the atmosphere, what goes up has to come back down. And with the number of synoptic scale features we've had coming off of the East Coast, as they induce their own level of subsidence or sinking air back behind him, or back behind them, I should say, and we have cold air starting to come off of the United States a la the transition season, I said this in another video too. You guys can go back and quote me. I said if anything sneaks in that far south, we have a problem. We're going to have to watch. If do this as a profession, you'll be able to spell it and be able to easily tell Socrates class become one. He's providing perfect evidence work. Kids like you shouldn't be on YouTube. Florida man, thank you very much. You got to start a metrology channel. Gabriel, you're right. I'm going to make my my next gamer tag. It's metrology 31. You're just killing the meteorology game. Very insightful. Thank you, Cameron MC. I appreciate that. Cool air, oh heck yeah. Yeah, Super Charas. That's one thing I've been talking about recently is now that we're getting into the mid parts of September, we're going to start seeing the weather begin to change. It won't be, as crazy as like a overnight thing, but we used to call it in Air Force weather the transition season. That's when we used to start, as a matter of fact, we actually had what we called continuation training on the different seasonal outlooks for the weather in Western CONUS and North America. And whenever we would go through different seasons, they'd make sure that our leadership was prep and training for us to get us ahead of the game and start shifting gears as, for example, during the summertime, it was monsoon season for the Southwest and the Four Corners area, so they would have us doing a whole bunch of recurring training about monsoon, thunderstorm forecasting, dry air influence, the monsoonal high, convective downrush winds, the different types of lapse rates that you can see on the skew-T charts. And then about this time of year is when they would start to shift gears to non-convective winds, synoptic scale thunderstorm threats, cold fronts, cold air damming in the mountains, and all that stuff. Carmen, if you're still in the chat right now, feel free to pop up real quick. Say hi to everybody. Because you brought up something very good in my most recent video in terms of your comment. You'd mentioned the hurricane-looking thing over to the north of California. And we'll go ahead and... I know we're switching AORs entirely, but I just want to give a little bit of an explanation on that. Go regions, and then we'll go... we'll just do all the North America OI. We'll just look at everything, the big picture. We'll go mean sea level pressure, norm anomaly. I don't know if she's still in here. Punta Cana this Sunday the 17th, praying Nigel leaves my wife and I alone. We'll definitely keep you posted on that. That's for sure. C. Ross, I see your comment in there. One more time, I'll give a shout out to you, Carmen. If you're still in the chat, raise your hand, please. Because she brought up an interesting question. She's been watching the weather as well on different channels, and she noticed something and brought it up to my attention that there was something looking like tropical circulation off of California coast. And I knew immediately when she brought that up that that's like the first indications we're going to start doing what's called transitioning seasons. I'll go in a little closer so that way I can get more information. We'll go to the CONUS look and do mean sea level pressure. No, not that one. Let's see. Oh, this is GEFS, stupid. Come on, David. Here we go. All right. With bad spelling. All right, so check this out. This is how I know we're going into transition season. So what we used to call this in Air Force weather right here, if you watch closely along the Rocky Mountains, you'll see that high pressure spill south real fast. See that? And how you get thunderstorms. You see that gradient right here? I'll use my black marker. Right in through here. You see that pressure gradient? Strong winds moving south. There's our low. This almost could look like a clipper setup too. We have our low up in through there. There's our warm front, cold front right through there. Surging south. That's what we called a front range. There she is, Carmen. There you go. Welcome back. That's what you call a front range cold plunge right there. And that's very indicative of transitioning from the summer to the fall-winter time pattern. That's where you have to start dealing with cross-barrier flow with the higher terrain features, lots more turbulence out there in your mountainous regions, and so on and so forth. And now I'll go ahead and switch the OI, and we'll look off the west coast to see what she was talking about earlier. So you see how earlier in this model, you see all the different Aleutian type lows moving across the southern peninsula of Alaska into British Columbia, northern Canadian territories. But then watch how you go through time and suddenly you see them start moving further south. You see that? You see how now we have lows coming in the west coast and we actually have a low pressure coming through the Pac Northwest, the Great Basin, then the Intermountain West of Montana and Wyoming up there. That's how you know we're getting into transition season. That's when you know we're going to have to slowly but surely start to switch gears from thunderstorms, and very soon we're going to start talking snow. Very soon we're going to start talking snow because these fronts are starting to dip south, and the jet's going to start to trough south even more so. And we're already starting to see what look like baroclinic snowstorms. Not snow yet, but snowstorms coming across the northern states and the upper Great Plains. Bro said Supervisor Chief Metropolitan Florida's done for. Cat 6 inbound. There it is. Wilhelm Red. You got the hype thing. You got the hype game down to a T. Are the blockage you were referring to regarding invest coming out of Africa still in play for Florida? Not the current invest, but there's something else out there that we might have to watch out for, at least in my opinion. 4 more minutes and we're going to be cutting the live stream short. We've been on for about an hour now. Well, almost an hour. 56 minutes and counting. But for folks who are just joining, we'll go ahead and... Where did I lost my ensembles? Oh, here we go. Yeah, no, we'll just use this one right here. We'll go GFS, change the OI. We'll go back to the North Atlantic and ensembles. And then look at that bad boy. You get really decent agreement that something's coming across the MDR, and then some of them want to move it to the north, but others are getting dangerously close to Caribbean islands and Cuba and whatnot. Way far out. This is probably going to change, but nonetheless, Euro and GFS are kind of thinking that something also could come off of Africa after Nigel's clear. And, oh my God, I keep looking up and seeing the hype, and it's just the same person again. Hyping. Next time I'm going to call it, what we'll do is, going forward, guys, we're going to do an 8 p.m. Tropics Talk, and then we're going to do a 9 p.m. hype session, just so we can invite everybody back and just talk smack about hype. Like, yeah, you see those red blips right there? Those are all actually 50-mile-wide tornadoes coming in. And actually, believe it or not, this one right here, that's one of the Independence Day spaceships. I'm just kidding. No, we're not going to do that. That'd be silly. Leah's headed west, not going north. No, it's going to go north. We have a lot of good confidence that it's going to move north. Problem is, it's a matter of if it's going to jog left or right by the time it gets into the upper coastline of the northeast. That's the big kicker. There's still very low confidence in terms of that. But yeah. Well, right now, guys, on satellite, it's gonna look like it's headed west. We still have a little bit longer of it headed west-northwest. Let me go ahead and go back to the outlook. Yeah, see, we still have at least a couple more days of it headed west. So we're not at the turn yet. He's really slowing down, too. We're at 7 miles per hour. Lee is not only trying to take the cake of... he already took the cake of strongest storm in the Atlantic for 2023, but he's also trying to take the throne from Franklin, who hung out there for about a solid 2-3 weeks almost. Because when did we start reporting on Lee? It's been a few days now, or it's been about a week now, talking about Lee, even before that. The hype channel. Instead of Weather Center Nazar, I'm going to rename my channel to a Weather Center Hype Man or something like that. Hype Central Nazario. There we go. That's going to be my secondary moniker. Hype Central Nazario. Any information from North Carolina from any upcoming hurricanes? Yes, Jay Rodriguez. We were just talking about how potential Nigel is looking at trying to skirt the coastline, possibly. Very far out, very chaotic outlook in terms of what the model data is calling for. But you can see right here on the 18Z run, we swing it back out to C. But then at 12Z, We come back to the hot model run, and you can see it getting dangerously close to the northeast mid-Atlantic. And I believe it's 0Z. It had it going right into right into the Carolinas. So you can see there's going to be a lot of wobbling back and forth. And we're so far out that this is going to happen. It's going to definitely, it's going to be all kinds of crazy. Like I said in my video yesterday, it's chaos right now. There's no deciphering what's happening. The interesting thing is 11 a.m. NHC update is generally moving northwest now. 5 p.m. it's moving west-northwest again. Yeah. Is you the forecaster a meteorologist? Thoughts? Well, let's go to the satellite. Let's see what the satellite has it doing. Dang, look at that exposed eye, though. That eye is not looking too healthy. Dude's having a hard time. Look at that. It had an eye for a second, and look at that. The eye is either going to try to grow huge, which is a sign of a weakening storm, or it's going to try to close off again. But look at that giant hole in its thunderstorm activity. In fact, it lost a lot of its really good eye wall convection right there. See how we have the grays and the purples flaring up around it, trying to get its act together, and then bam, all of it just kind of petered out. And then we have this giant asymmetrical exposed center of circulation. So I don't know, it almost looks like Lee's fighting for his life. In fact, I think correct me if I'm wrong, I forget your name already. Forgive me. Let me scroll up in the chat real fast. VP Weather, don't quote me on this, but didn't it weaken again? Like we were kind of creeping back up to Cat 4 strength, and then all of a sudden it dropped back down to low grade, 115 miles per hour here. And let's go to one of the previous advisories. We'll go to the 11 a.m. advisory. Yeah, so it's back down again. It's weakening again. It's kind of like fluctuating back and forth. Lee is definitely struggling. I'm telling you, if you guys were in for my Friday night live stream, I had mentioned that these high horsepower these high horsepower storms are not meant to take very much. This dude's been in the pit zone ever since he blew up, and he's been taking a beating. Taking it like a champ, though. He's still there, major hurricane. Lee went from Cat 2 to Cat 5 and got a perfect eye for a while. It was amazing. Yeah, it was definitely a beautiful storm to look at, and I'm very thankful that we could watch it from a distance as opposed to watching it make landfall. It indeed did. It may re-strengthen up to 120 or so, so is what. And you know, for a little while there, I was questioning what I had mentioned in yesterday's video, because everyone is still, there's a lot of people out there who are still saying it could go Cat 5 again. If that's not hype, then I don't know what is. And I've been trying to, when people ask, I've been telling them, you know, I think that ship has sailed. I don't think we'll really see a whole bunch of intensification out of this storm anymore. It'll definitely hold steady for now. Kenneth, you took the words right out of my mouth. It'll definitely hold steady, but you can see just on the infrastructure of it, the construction of the storm, it's not doing the greatest. It's definitely a mere shadow of its former self. I am in Virginia. I'll be back for my updates. Thank you. Glad to be here. Good night, everyone. Be safe. Lisa, have a great evening. Thank you so much for tuning in. Pleasure to have you. Pleasure to have everybody. We're a little over the hour threshold. So, main takeaways. We'll go ahead and do the main takeaways again. We always got to do that, just in case. I want to make sure we get into a habit of doing main takeaways. Let me go ahead and swoop this over. We'll go 72. Number one. Main takeaway number one. Stop hyping. No, I'm just kidding. Main takeaway number one, still some discontinuity with Lee, albeit struggling to maintain intensity. I'm going to have to shrink the font a little bit. We're going into the other page. Let's go with 36 right there. That should be fine. I was gone most of the stream, so yes, let's do this. Yeah, we're going to recap for sure. I always want to make sure to do this in case people trickle in late. Brent Doyle, great videos. Hello from Halifax, Nova Scotia. Wow, Brent, thank you for joining us from Halifax, Nova Scotia. Look at that. Big shout out to you guys up there. Watching Lee closely, that's for sure. We were talking about, as I mentioned right here, there's still quite a bit of discontinuity in terms of what he could do. There's some operational runs suggesting that it would want to go west into the Maine and maybe just south of Maine, United States area. And then others still want to swoop him up, going right across Nova Scotia, if not maybe clipping the coastline. It would be weird if Lee moved towards Florida. Not saying it will happen, but stranger things have happened. It is nearly impossible. Zenful, I agree. Definitely nearly impossible. But again, there's always that 1% chance. There's no saying that we could see something wild happen in the pattern that opens up a channel. These storms, they sometimes have a mind of their own. And even though you have this saying it's going to go wide right, sometimes they just want to go wide left. But very low threat. Extremely low threat. Takeaway number 2. Watching future Nigel. Large area, or I should say large margin of error. Some take it in lieu of Margo, who's now a hurricane. Others want to track further west, a la Lee 2.0. There we go. Those are our top three takeaways for the live stream tonight, ladies and gentlemen. We have discontinuity with Lee in terms of a landfall, if there's going to be a landfall. Also still struggling with intensity. He's been going back and forth, back and forth. Number 2, we're watching future Nigel. There's a huge margin of error. Almost all of the North Atlantic is fair play in terms of what our ensembles are looking at. And then number 3 was something we just randomly discovered here together. Ophelia, maybe coming soon. Insert eye emoji. Hey, Mr. Not gonna knock out. Have a great one, guys. VP Weather, thank you so much for joining in. Appreciate you. Appreciate everybody for taking the time out of their evening to come talk tropics. Less than 5 Cat 5s have not been retired. Many Cat 5 storms not had name retired. Yeah, there have been a lot that have been blowing up out there, and just because they haven't left their mark in history, they really haven't been retired yet. So we may actually see Lee recycled unless he does make a major landfall. So, folks, there you have it. That's Tropics Talk with Weather Center Nazario. This is our evening recap of the live stream. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in now. If not, we're going to go ahead and start wrapping up. For now, Fumchum, Nigel is, the European ensembles, the general trend is in this direction. But if you look at the spread, all the more finite points of where the center could track, it's just so big. They're probably just taking the path of least resistance themselves, what makes the most sense. Robert, good night. Thanks for tuning in. Pleasure to have you. We'll see you soon. All right, I'm not seeing too many questions pop up in the chat, so we'll go ahead and start calling it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Let me go ahead and make sure that I didn't lose a bunch of subscribers when we started talking hype a little while ago. Nope, we're definitely... it's a pleasure to ring in 3,000 subscribers with you guys. We're well over the threshold now. I sincerely thank you from the bottom of my heart. It's exciting to see that we're at 3,000 subscribers already. It's only been a week since we hit 2,000. Lord willing, if it's Lord's will... If it's God's will, I can continue to provide you guys with the utmost quality of weather information to the best of my ability. I give him all the praise for the abilities. If it weren't for him, I wouldn't have the passion nor the desire to continue to learn and provide for you guys and interconnect with everybody. It's been an absolute joy talking to everybody. Even being called a fear-monger and hype man, it's an experience. It's all part of the gig. So I take it with a grain of salt and take it on the chin. Good night, Mr. Nazario, new milestone. I appreciate you, Twister Gaming. Twister's one of my favorite movies. Excited for Twisters next year. Thank you very much. Good night. Congrats on the 3K. Thank you, Zenful. Fumchum, favorite restaurant? That's very hard. I'm a big foodie, and I'm not picky. My favorite go-to food is probably Italian, but, I'll munch out on some fast food every now and again as well. FaZe Harvey or FaZe Jarvey, go ahead and ask your question. Look forward to more videos. Thank you. Brent, I appreciate you, buddy. Thanks for coming in. Central Florida's under low pressure, right? As of right now, I think so. I believe so. Let me go ahead and go to WPC. And then I'm going to strangle my cat because she's eating one of my mask's hair. Willow, get down from there. You're not supposed to mess with Michael Myers. Actually, no, we are under what looks like high pressure according to the most recent. No, we have low pressure. We're like prefrontal right now. Have a great night from Mike from Rhode Island. Great content. Thank you, Mike. Michael Vasella, thank you very much for that. You could say that Florida is more or less wandering between low and high pressure. We got a stationary boundary over the southwest or the southeast, so we're more of like right on that ribbon of baroclinicity or temperature discontinuity with that. So I mean, it's going back and forth. I've noticed the humidity has gone up around here, so we're definitely not under high pressure anymore. Danny, thank you very much. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's a pleasure to have you here. A week AM staying. Thanks. Of course, Dion, thanks for stopping by. It's great to see everybody. We'll go ahead and cut it off now, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in one more time. I'm going to say that probably 10 more times before I get off the stream. If you have any further questions, please leave them in the comments, and I'll definitely get back to you at my earliest convenience. I never like to leave anybody hanging. So, yeah, it seems to be heavily raining here in Orlando. You mentioned that, and I have to go and look it up. Let's see. Maybe we have some thunderstorms moving through late in the evening. Oh, yeah, look at that. We got a huge ball of convection out there. Oh, shoot. I'm glad you brought that up. We're about to get pooped on over here. We got an outflow boundary coming in from the north and a nice band of convection coming through. Shoot. Thank you very much for putting that out there. Do we have any warnings with this? Yeah. Whoa! Possible tornado out there. Wow, okay, that came out of nowhere. Oh, wait, yeah, guys, whoever's still in here, whoa. This just escalated quick. Look at that. We got a hook echo on radar, folks. Now you can definitely say I'm hyping, but look at that. There's some tornadic potential out there right now in the middle of the night. That's scary. Let me expand my marker a little bit. That's a textbook hook echo right there. If I have any viewers in Central Florida, Central Orange County, definitely be watching your National Weather Service reports. That could be a tornado-warned storm right there. There's a textbook hook echo going on over Central Orange County right now, headed due south towards Osceola County. Let's go to base velocity. Yeah, there's some gate-to-gate shear in there. It looked a little stronger earlier. We're going into the cone of silence, as they say in Twister. But dang, that's tornadic right there. That's got some really good spinach. Good night, Carmen. Thank you very much. Thank you so much for joining in. I really appreciate you. I'm in New Brunswick expecting a storm. Some people say it's too early but I'd rather... Yes, Windstar, definitely prepare. You're definitely in the realm of possibility and a pretty decent possibility as well. Definitely going to call this off now. That's loaded my area in that same circle. So Central Orange County phase, definitely watch yourself. That's a potent storm out there, and it has really good rotation with it. You can see it right in through here. And it's holding it, too. Shoot, I'm about to go jump in my car and go storm chasing. Right here, that's the storm in question right there. We have nice echoing going on with it. Let me change my color. I'll use green. Right there. Yeah, no, it looks like there was a combination of the sea breeze and some prefrontal activity that's going on right now. But, yeah, look at that. Wow, right there. Right there is where we could have had a funnel or something try to descend out of it. Right there. Look at that hook echo. And it looks like there could be some hints of these storms wanting to rotate as well as they come through and they interact with that outflow boundary. We got some intense storms earlier this afternoon here in Jacksonville. The sky looked tornado-y. Yeah, that goes to show it's definitely a potential out there. I'm glad we looked at this. That's like clockwork right there, guys. It is still holding that rotation. I mean, the last couple of scans look like it's starting to peter out a little bit. But I'm a little concerned about these bad boys. It's moving with... No, actually, it's not. No, yeah, it's still moving with the flow. That's not a right mover or anything, or a left mover. We're going to have to watch these, because this is my neck of the woods, Polk County. Congratulations, 3K. Omar Weather Law, yes, hyping. I'm hyping it up right now. Just got hit with another T-storm alert expiring 9:57. Yeah, Gabe, that's tornadic right there, buddy. That's definitely, maybe not tornado on the ground or anything like that, but that's got rotation. There might be an embedded mesocyclone in that system. So if you're not getting a twister, you might be getting hail out of it as well. Let me see what the VIL looks like. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. There's definitely hail up in that storm right now too. Wow, that came out of nowhere. We shifted gears big time. We went from tropics and hyping to twisters. That's why I say wide left and wide right. Stuff coming out of north. Then we have more thunderstorms. Yeah, nocturnal convection right now. This is crazy. I'm going to have to keep an eye out. Stop with the pen. Select the arrow. 20, 30 minutes from me. Yeah. Look at that. We have storms igniting all over the place right now. It's going to be an interesting evening. Yeah, they're brewing up fast. Look at how they're collecting some Vil with them. This one's probably going to be our next severe thunderstorm right there. That's going to be severe warned very soon. Right in through here. We got a whole blob of stuff popping off. And as that outflow right here just continues to move south, all these storms are going to ignite. And that's what's scary. If we have rotation in one of them, then it's not out of the ballpark for the rest of them, especially since we have that surface cold pool plunging south right here, and we have these pushing against it. That they could spin. Wow. All right, yeah. We're definitely going to go ahead and end the stream. I believe it, FaZe. Definitely watch yourselves out there, guys. Oh, and I missed it. I'm sorry, Carmen. Thank you very much for the congrats on the 3K. I really appreciate it. That's wild, though. We got some tornadic activity in Central Florida, guys. I'm going to hop off now, and let's keep an eye on this. But thank you very much for tuning in, everyone. Got to watch out for some tornadic activity here in the neck of the woods of Central Florida. If I have any viewers still lingering in the chat in the Central Florida area, be cognizant of your weather alerts this evening, because where there's one, there's always others. If there's one taking shape, that means that the environment is primed for rotation. And even if we don't see an actual tornado on the ground, there's still good ingredients for hail and very strong winds with this. So yeah, we're not done yet. Definitely not done yet. It's going to be an exciting rest of September 11th. But with that being said, folks, will you be chasing? I don't know. That's pretty far away from where I am right now. I want to, but by the time I get up there, knowing Florida traffic, I'll probably have missed it. We'll see what happens down in Polk County, though, because they're headed right for me. I'll have to keep an eye out. Definitely going to keep an eye out. But all right. Still have 70 viewers in here. Thank you all for tuning in. We're going to go ahead and hop off now for sure. I know I've said it like 50 times, but we'll see you all on Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for our next iteration of Tropics Talk. We'll go over the recap we talked about this evening and see if there's any new entities on the horizon in the tropics. But until then, folks, this is Weather Center Nazario, signing out.